Esme was walking in the forest. In the afternoon, she decided to return home, but realized that she'd got completely lost. She was wandering around the forest until she came across a witch's house. She petted a black cat and asked the witch to take her home. The witch agreed, but first, she needed Esme's help. The witch had created several magical portals to different places. There were some things she needed to do there, but she was too old and tired to travel there herself, so she wanted Esme to do it. Esme had no other choice but to agree. She could use her help, so hop in. Esme enters the portal, and it takes her to ancient Egypt. Here, Esme needs to find a magical cup from a pharaoh's treasure cave. But first, she has to get there. To enter the cave, the girl has to unlock the door first.
Uh-oh.
Look at the hieroglyphs and find the odd one. Okay, here it is. It wasn't that hard. The first lock is unlocked. Now, let's find the odd one again. Look attentively. Yes, it's right here. Great job. It's 2 out of 5 now. Okay, now there's several types of hieroglyphs, but there's one that's unique. Can you find it? Look, it's right here. Here's a new one. Your task is the same. This one. Just one more lock to open. Try to be attentive. Yes, it's right here. Finally, Esme gets inside, but there are more things to do before she can grab that cup. She walks further and sees another door she has to unlock. Look at these two pictures and help Esme find a difference between them. Look, right here. Here's the second one. Now there are two differences. Try to find them both. Here and here. Okay, the last one for this door. There are 3 differences, and Esme has to spot them all. She needs your help. What do you say? One, 2, and 3. The door slowly moves to the side, and Esme finds herself in a narrow corridor. Luckily, there's just one way, so she knows where to go. After a while, she stumbles across another closed door. There are 4 statues next to it. There's a statue of a cat, of a sphinx, of Horus, and one of Anubis. To open the door, Esme has to place them in the correct order. Luckily, there's a hint. 1. Anubis is on the left of the Sphinx and on the right of the cat. 2. The cat is right next to Anubis. 3. Horus is somewhere in the middle. Can you help Esme with this task? So here's Anubis, and the cat is on its left side. Sphinx should be somewhere on the right, so that the cat and Anubis are both on its left side. But there's also Horus. It should be in the middle. Then it goes between the Sphinx and Anubis, and the correct order is the cat, Anubis, Horus, and the Sphinx. The door clicks open, and Esme finds herself in a big room lit by thousands of torches. There's a lot of gold in there, but she only needs the cup the witch told her about. In the corner, there's a chest. Esme opens it and finds 2 cups there. One of them is the actual magical Egyptian cup, and the other is a fake cup from the future. Can you figure out which cup is the original one? Look closely at the drawings of the left cup. In one of them, there's a train. Back then there were no trains, so people couldn't draw them. The original cup is the one on the right. Then, purple mist surrounds her, and a second later, Esme is at the witch's house again. The girl gives her the cup, but there are more tasks ahead. Now, the witch needs some plants that grew in the past. She gives Esme some drawings, and Esme disappears again. Considering there are dinosaurs eating grass, Esme is deep in the past. But let's get down to business. The witch must have only had black paint, so the girl will have to identify plants based on their shadows. Here's the first one. Which is the right plant? Here it is. The next one, can you spot it? It's right here. You're doing great. Can you find the third one? It's way harder, but you can do it. Yeah, this one. Okay, level up. What about this one? Here it is. One more, and Esme will… Oh no, the drawing is gone. It was some really fast animal that snatched it right out of Esme's hands. Esme has to follow it. Can you tell which way the creature went? Look, the tree growing near the middle road is still shaking. I bet that's where Esme has to go. She goes deeper into the jungle. Soon, she realizes she has no idea where to go next. Can you help her? Look, there are paw prints, but they're all different. You just have to figure out which ones are the right ones. Have you been attentive enough to remember what the paw prints on the previous road looked like? Yes, here they are. So Esme should take the left turn. And here it is. Luckily, the dinosaur isn't too big, and hopefully it doesn't eat people. Esme needs to get that piece of paper back, but the dinosaur needs something in return. What can she offer the animal? The girl doesn't know what this dino eats, but it was interested in that piece of paper. Esme has already collected the first 4 plants, so she doesn't need these drawings anymore, and trading 4 for 1 seems like a good deal to the dino. Problem solved. Okay, one last plant. Can you find it? Yes, right here. Great job. Purple mist surrounds Esme again, and she's back at the witch's house. She needs to make 2 more trips. The next artifact is Emerald. It's a precious metal that will be discovered in 2157, so yeah, Esme is heading to the future. There's no need to steal the metal. Esme can just wing it. In 2172, there's a popular brain test game. Esme can walk in, pay, and take part in it. If she wins, she'll get her money back, as well as a little piece of Emerald. But first, the girl needs to get some money. It must be a $100 coin. Look around. Maybe there's one hidden somewhere here. Yes, there's a coin by the bench. Someone must have lost it, but I think Esme can borrow it. She'll put it back if she wins the game. As Esme is heading to the game spot, she notices something weird. Can you tell which of these players isn't human? It's the third one. Look, they have greenish legs, while the other 2 are just wearing boots. So, Esme inserts the coin and the game starts. Wow, she's lucky! The first task is based on the pop culture of the early 21st century. Esme has to guess movies by emojis. Here's the first one. What movie is it? Harry Potter. Do you think people in 2172 will still watch it? Anyways, the next one. Right, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, here's another one. A beautiful love story. Of course, it's The Notebook. Moving on. Cars, robots. That's Transformers. How about some TV shows? Come on, that's Stranger Things. And the last one? People used to be obsessed with Squid Game. So, Esme got 6 out of 6. Great job! Now it's time for some math. Here's an equation. 101 minus 102 equals 1. Move just one digit and make it correct. Well, that's simple. Esme just needs to move the 2 a bit upwards and turn the 102 into a 10 to the power of 2. Now it's 101 minus 10 to the power of 2, which is 100. And the answer is, indeed, 1. Esme is almost there. Just one more step. She has to unlock the safe that contains her reward. 2 digits are missing. Can you guess which ones? Look, they go like this: 27, 37. Then, below, we have 57 and 67. So the missing digits must be 1 and 4. In this case, the code consists of 2-digit numbers ending in 7 in ascending order. So here it is. Esme takes the emerald, puts the coin back, and off she goes back to the witch. Her last task is to visit the witch's frenemy, Dracula, and get her gold necklace from him. The witch snaps her fingers, and seconds later, Esme stands in a dark hallway. It must be Dracula's castle. And yes, here he is. Well, there are actually 3 Draculas. Can you help Esme figure out which one of them is the real Dracula? It's the one on the right. Look, he's the only one who doesn't cast a shadow. So, Rose sent you to bring her old necklace. Well, I like games too. I'll give you a chance to get it, but only one. If you don't succeed, you'll stay with me forever. Look, there are 3 skulls. The necklace is in one of them. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll give you a hint. It's in the first skull, and it's not in the second skull, and it's not in the first skull. Sounds strange? That's because I lied 2 times. Now you have to try to determine the right skull. Which skull do you think it is? If the necklace is in the first skull, then we've got 2 truths and 1 lie. If it's in the third skull, then there are 2 truths too. If it's in the second skull and there are exactly 2 lies, so the necklace must be there. And the answer is correct. Dracula isn't happy, but Esme is already disappearing, surrounded by purple mist. All the tasks completed, Esme can go home.
Brad has recently downloaded a dating app and found 3 beautiful ladies right away. Fiona is an art dealer from San Francisco. She has never had a serious relationship before, but she would like to settle down. Mary is a vegan, yoga teacher, and human rights enthusiast. She loves French cheese and enjoys watching sunsets on the pier. Betty is a firefighter. In her spare time, she writes songs and performs them with her music band. Brad likes them all equally. Can you give him advice on who he should invite on a real offline date? Look at this wedding picture in Fiona's profile. She's the bride, but she claimed she had never been married. Mary is also a liar. Vegans don't eat cheese, so Brad should text Betty. As soon as Betty received a text from Brad, she ran to the bathroom to get ready for the date. She got her hair done and took out several lipsticks. Betty is a tomboy, which is why she uses makeup very rarely. Can you help her choose the right lipstick for her date? This lipstick is way too old. Look at the date. It was made in 1999 and expired a long time ago. And there's a spider inside this lipstick. Betty should choose the second one. Meanwhile, Brad took a shower and prepared to put on his favorite white shirt. But when he pulled it out of the closet, he discovered that someone had stained it with chocolate. Brad questioned his 3 brothers. Jim said he'd been cooking dinner in the kitchen. He didn't even come into Brad's room that day. Bill said that he entered Brad's room about an hour before to borrow a charger for his phone. And Mike said he'd been partying with his girlfriend all day and had just returned home. Who is lying? Bill. If he borrowed a charger 1 hour ago, why is his phone still at 1%? Brad decided to prank his brother Bill and cut 2 holes in his t-shirt. How many holes does the t-shirt have now? 8. These 2 holes are cut through the t-shirt. That makes 4 holes in total. Plus, there are 2 holes for the arms, 1 for the head, and 1 at the bottom of the t-shirt. Betty and Brad met in a restaurant. It was love at first sight. A waiter came over and said, "Good evening. What would you like to eat?" Betty answered, "I'd like something that is red, but it can be green at times, and sometimes it's yellow." The waiter cracked her riddle immediately and brought her the food she'd ordered. What was it? An apple. Brad liked the game and offered the waiter one more riddle. It can be red and it can be green. It can be black or it can be white. It tastes delicious with other dishes, but not on its own. In a minute, the waiter brought Brad his order. Have you guessed what it was? Pepper. After dinner, Brad and Betty went for a walk in the park. They were so focused on each other that they got completely lost. They began looking for a way out and came to this weird crossroad. There were 4 different roads. Each road had a sign, but the signs had no words. Still, Brad and Betty knew which path to take. What about you? This one. It's the only right hand. 5 months later, Betty moved in with Brad. They shared a family house with Brad's 3 brothers. One day, Betty got a new longboard as a gift for Brad's birthday. It was a surprise, so she locked it in a basement and went to buy some groceries for dinner. When she returned, the longboard wasn't there. She realized that one of the 4 brothers must have pulled a prank on her. Brad said he hadn't seen anything. Jim said he'd noticed the longboard while walking past the basement, but he'd been in a hurry to get to his training. Mike said he had spent the day downstairs baking cookies for his scientific club. And Bill said he'd been on a business trip. Who is behind the mysterious disappearance? Jim. Betty locked the room. It means he couldn't see the longboard unless he broke in. Brad's brothers came home after work and met Brad in the kitchen. The guy was anxious because Betty was missing. The brothers asked him to tell them everything in detail. Brad said, "Well, she made me a birthday cake with ice cream this morning. I wanted to try it, but she said we'd eat it in the evening. We argued a bit. Then I went to work. When I got back, she was gone." As soon as the brothers heard Brad's story, they called him a liar. Why? He said Betty had made the cake in the morning. Then why hasn't the ice cream melted yet? Brad got a job as a chemistry teacher. Wait, who stole his money? Brad found only one person's fingerprints on the wallet, his own. He questioned his 3 colleagues. Math teacher Jennifer said that she'd been having lunch. History teacher Becky said, "I didn't feel well yesterday, so I went home early." And English teacher Sam said that he'd been checking his students' homework in his classroom. Who is the thief? The history teacher. She used gloves to steal the money and then threw them in the trash. Betty and Brad were walking down the street. Suddenly, they met a weird-looking guy. He introduced himself as a magician and asked, "Do you guys want to get rich? Crack this 3-digit code, and the money is yours." He gave them a heavy suitcase with a combination lock and a piece of paper with this riddle. A. 548. In the first line, one number is correct and well placed. B. 530. In the second line, nothing is correct. C. 157. In the third line, 2 numbers are correct but in the wrong places. D. 806. In the fourth line, 1 number is correct but in the wrong place. E. 647. And in the fifth line, 1 number is correct but in the wrong place. Can you help the guys? You can use different approaches to crack this riddle. The easiest one is to start with statement B. None of these digits are correct. Therefore, we can exclude numbers 5, 3, and 0. In statement C, we're told that 2 numbers are correct, but in the wrong places. We can conclude that numbers 1 and 7 are in the final code, but we still don't know the order. Now let's take a look at statements D and E. In both of them, 1 number is correct, but in the wrong place. We already know that 7 is in the code. It means the remaining digit can't be 6. Then it must be 8. Look again at statement A. Since the correct number is 8, it must also be correctly placed. In statement C, we have 2 correct numbers, but they're in the wrong places. Since the third position in the code is already occupied by 8, we can only have one option. 7 should go first, and 1 should be second. Then the correct code is 718. Brad and Betty opened the suitcase. It had $50 million inside. They quit their jobs and went on vacation right away. They checked into a fancy hotel and went to their room to get some rest after a long, exhausting flight. In the evening, they went downstairs to have dinner in a cute Chinese restaurant. But one of the guests is not human. Can you spot who it is? Take a closer look at this guy's plate. It doesn't look like human food at all. When Betty and Brad returned to their room after the meal, they discovered that all their money and gadgets were gone.
Oh, no.
The hotel security manager asked 3 guests the same question. What were you doing within the last 2 hours? Dan said that he had spent all evening in the swimming pool area. Courtney said she'd been chilling in her room with her besties and had nothing to do with the robbery. And Henry said he had just returned from a party in another part of the city. Who's the thief? Courtney. The security manager didn't mention any robbery, but she started making excuses straight away. Brad decided to jump with a parachute, but he landed not as successfully as he had expected. As soon as Betty found out about the accident, she rushed to the hospital. In the room, she saw an unconscious person, completely in bandages. She asked a doctor who was passing by, "Sir, please let me in. It's my boyfriend." But the doctor told her that the patient was a woman. Who is right? It's a man. Look at the name tag on his bed. Brad got well pretty quickly, and Becky took him on a romantic trip to an ancient castle. They were walking around the place and taking pictures, but suddenly, all the doors slammed shut. The guys were trapped inside. Brad found a door with a 4-digit combination lock, and Betty found this piece of paper on the floor. Can you help the guys crack the code and escape? The correct code is stop. Take the first letter of September the sixth letter of August, the first letter of October, and the second letter of April, and you'll get the word stop. The other day, Mike had a dentist appointment. When he came to the dentist's office, he saw two doors leading to the rooms. The administrator was away, so Mike decided to find the right room himself. He opened the right door first, and then he checked the left room too. Where was the real dentist? The real dentist was behind the left door. Look, the dentist stands over the chair and holds a dental instrument in his hands. In the chair, there's a teenager who's having his teeth professionally cleaned. But behind the right door, the dentist is holding a tattooing machine. A teen in that room is looking at him with suspicion. Jennifer was exploring some spooky old house, looking for fancy antique things. Some hours later, she got tired and decided to have a quick lunch, which she had packed in the morning. She went to the dining room with a large table and 3 chairs, lit the candles, and was about to take a seat. But all of a sudden, she spotted something weird about most of the chairs in that room. What chair should Jennifer sit on? Jennifer was super attentive. That's why she sat on the chair in the middle. The one on the left has a sharp nail sticking out, and the one on the right is already taken. Look, there's a ghost sitting on it. Stuart was taking the final cooking exam. He has always wanted to be a chef, and he was about to take one step closer to his dream. The professor said the one who answered all his questions would get the certificate with honors and the money prize of $10,000. The most important thing is that this person will also be offered a sous chef position at one of the most prestigious restaurants in Paris. All the students answered 19 questions, and the professor read the last and the most complicated one. What product will never be salty when you boil it, no matter how much salt you add? 2 days later, Stuart was on his way to Paris. He was the only one to know the answer. What product was the professor talking about? It's an egg in the shell. No matter how much salt there is in the water, the boiled egg won't be salty. Fiona left her husband a shopping list for him to go to the supermarket. These guys are really into riddles, so the list was full of them. Fiona wanted Mark to buy something that has eyes but can't see, something that has ears but can't hear, and the wealthiest nuts. What did Fiona want Mark to buy? Fiona needed some potatoes, corn, and cashews. Jenny was locked in a room with 15 other people. Each of them could see the entire room and all the people inside without turning their head or body or moving in any other way. To get out of the room, Jenny had to place an orange in such a way that everyone but one person could see it. The girl managed to do it. But how? She put the orange on one person's head. A notorious bad guy caught wealthy businessman Brian and locked him in a room. "I won't let you go until you double the money I'll leave for you." And the criminal put $5,000 on the table. By the time he returned, Brian had already doubled the money. He hadn't left the room or communicated with anyone. Then how did he do it? He put the money in front of the mirror. Early in the morning, Ashton got a call from his friend, an owner of a big company. The man was in distress. A very important contract had disappeared from his office. It had been on the desk the evening before, but nowhere to be found in the morning. Ashton immediately headed to the office to question the employees. In no time, he had 3 suspects. Ben said he had spent the previous evening at the movies. Mason had taken his girlfriend out to dinner, and Jesse had been invited to a party. It didn't take Liam long to understand who was lying. It was Ben. His ticket wasn't torn, so he didn't actually go to the movies. Right before a restaurant was about to open, someone stole all the money from the office. A detective arrived for interrogation. A cook said that he was working hard and didn't have time to walk or gaze around, so he didn't see anything. The security guy said that he was in the bathroom and didn't steal anything. The waiter said he remembered seeing one visitor heading to the office. Somehow he ignored it and didn't stop them. The waiter got arrested for stealing the money. Why? The restaurant wasn't open yet. There could be no visitors. Blake was a writer applying for a job in a fashion magazine. However, the boss was a whimsical woman. Blake did the interview well, but still, the woman didn't want to hire her because Blake was too young. The boss poured some water into a glass and asked Blake to get her some apple juice to fail her. However, there were two conditions. She wanted the water in the glass, but didn't want it to mix with the juice. Still, Blake figured out how to do it and got the job. How? She just put the glass in the freezer and waited till the water got frozen, then she poured the juice on top of it. Della was having a birthday party. She invited 3 people over and got 3 presents: a pair of heels, a bag of makeup, and golden earrings. However, Eloise didn't like one of the presents. Can you guess which one and why? She didn't like the golden earrings just because she couldn't wear them. Her ears aren't pierced. Well, maybe she will consider piercing them. Jason is making pizza for his family, and Savannah went outside to make some grilled vegetables. Which one of them does something wrong? Jason. He forgot to turn on the oven. James was a famous detective who could crack even the hardest cases. Once, he was investigating a case and found some crucial evidence. The next morning, he woke up in a well. It was old, deep, but luckily not filled with water, but quite dusty. On the flip side, there was no way he could get out to the surface. Suddenly, James saw his main suspect's face at the top of the well. "You won't live long enough to rat me out," the man shouted. And then, the detective felt soil falling on his head. The bad guy was going to bury him alive. But in an hour, James was already out of the well and running away. How did he manage to get out? The detective started to shake off and tamp down the soil that was falling into the well. He was getting closer and closer to the surface until he managed to jump out and run away. Jane was walking home late. She was pretty tired, so she decided to take a bus. It was midnight, but the bus was packed with people. You get a gut feeling later that there's something wrong with some of these people. Who's a zombie? There are 20 people on the bus. There are 2 zombies among them. A man on the right has a bit of a bandage on his arm, and the woman next to the window seems to be groaning all the time. All the people in town thought Jack wasn't smart enough. Every time somebody offered him a 50C coin or a $1 bill, he would always choose the 50C coin. Many people every day would offer him to do it, but he never grabbed the bill. Why was Jack smart? Jack was actually pretty smart because he would get money without doing anything. As long as he agreed to get less money for no reason, people would come and try his trick again and again. See that car? Jack's been refusing $1 bills for over 10 years now, so he saved up enough money to get a car. You find yourself in a photo gallery. After looking at the wall, you realize that one of the pictures doesn't belong. You see a raccoon, a llama, a football, and a balloon. Can you tell which is the odd one out? You have 7 seconds to guess. It's the llama picture. The other 3 objects have 2 double letters in their names, but the llama only has 1 double. And trust me, don't get too close to the llama. They might spit in your face. It's not fun. You have 3 matches. Can you make a 6 out of them without breaking them into pieces? Who said the number 5 has to be a standard 6? The match is made a perfect Roman numeral 3 right from the get-go. So all you have to do is bring the bottoms of the first 2 matches toward each other, and you've got a Roman numeral 6. It's your first day in the new office. Some colleagues don't seem really friendly, and you can't understand why. They also act strange, never have coffee breaks, and work at least 12 hours a day. A secretary at the reception desk, Lauren, tells that their company hires robots sometimes because they work harder than people and aren't addicted to coffee. She also says to stay away from them and try not to talk to them or even greet them because they can be unpredictable sometimes. It's quite easy to tell who's a robot. Can you guess who's a robot among these 3 people? Anna, Mike, and Lucy? It's Mike. He's the only one among 3 people who have a switch on the right.
It's a cold night. Dark city streets, lights of driving cars, sounds of sirens, loud voices, chilly air, wet asphalt. Are you ready to get rid of the crime in this city? Then remember to count your correct answers. November 4th, 2021. It's been raining for 3 days, but even this is not enough to wash away all the dirt of the city. For several hours, Detective Sadfist had been sitting in his car near the house of a Hollywood star. The detective is sure that someone is going to rob her house. The actress doesn't believe in this. In the distance, he sees a tall man in a hat. He approaches the door and knocks. The actress opens the door and greets the stranger. "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was my house," he says. It has a very similar design. The actress closes the door and the stranger leaves. The detective gets out of the car and arrests him because the man is a thief. Why is the detective so sure about this? If the stranger had really thought it was his house, he wouldn't have knocked on the door. He'd have tried to open it with a key. The detective takes the thief to the station. The rain is finally over. It promises to be a long night, so the detective goes to buy a coffee. At this moment, the radio reports an arson to the south of the central square. No time for coffee. Sadfist hits the gas pedal and drives to the place. He notices the flames from afar. 2 houses are burning. The detective notices several more police cars. A police officer tells him that one house belongs to a rich businessman. There's a lot of money inside. The owner of the second house is a poor artist. His paintings are burning now. Which house will the detective go to first to put out the fire? He's not a firefighter, so he won't approach either house. After watching the flames for a while, Detective Sadfist gets into his car and realizes he can't take it anymore. He needs some sleep. He doesn't want to go home because his house reminds him of her, and he doesn't need those memories at the moment. He decides to rent a hotel room. The detective asks the hotel administrator to wake him up at 7 a.m. "Of course," the man says, "but don't forget to call me first. Then I'll come to wake you up. One call will be enough." What does the detective need to do to make the lazy guy wake him up? He can set an auto call for 6:50 a.m. The detective enters the room and falls on the bed. At this moment, the door starts opening slowly. The faces of people he has thrown into jail appear out of the darkness. The detective sits up on the bed and the door slams shut. At first, Sadfist doesn't understand what just happened, but then he lets out a sigh of relief. It was just a nightmare. How has he figured it out? It's already light outside. It was dark when the detective checked into the hotel. That means he was asleep. A new day, a new case. The detective is going to the countryside. A girl has disappeared there. Sadfist intends to find her. He stops his car near 3 houses. They're located on the ocean beach. 3 roads lead to the houses. Sharp rocks and shards of glass cover the first road. The second road is swarming with snakes. Lava is boiling on the third road. Which path should the detective choose? The ocean will soon cool the lava and turn it into stone. The detective follows the third path. He enters the house and finds the missing girl there. She confesses that she stayed late at a party, and her mother was so worried that she called the police. Detective Sadfist arrives at an office building in the center of the city. He goes up to the top floor. Here, a rich banker is lying unconscious. Someone hit him on the head and stole important documents from his safe. There's a tape recorder on the banker's desk. The detective turns it on. The banker's voice comes from the microphone. "My nephew. He called me a few minutes ago and said he would break into my office and take my documents. I don't know what to do. If something happens to me, you should know. My nephew Michael is to blame. Oh no, I think I heard the elevator doors open. I think it's him. He's here." The recording ends. "We must find his nephew," one of the police officers says. "I don't think so. The nephew has done nothing wrong. The man just wanted to frame him," Sadfist answers. How did the detective figure that out? Someone rewound the tape in the recorder to the very beginning. It's unlikely that the nephew did it. He'd get rid of the recorder. The detective leaves the office, gets into the elevator, and meets an old concierge. They go down very slowly. The concierge looks attentively at the buttons. The detective asks him, "What's the matter?" The concierge answers that 5 people live on the 35th floor. 3 live on the 20th floor. 4 people live on the 7th floor. And 7 people live on all other floors. The building has 40 floors in total. The concierge asks, "Which elevator button is pressed most often? What do you think?" The answer is the first floor button. It's pressed by every resident. The detective gets into the car and drives to a cafe. He hasn't eaten anything since yesterday. He orders an omelet and opens a newspaper. There's a riddle on the front page. In the winter, a guy went to a nearby village to meet with his friends. He knew he needed to go through a forest, a small field, then a forest again, and only after that would he reach his goal. The guy started his journey. He went through the forest, the field, another forest. But then, he saw a big river. How can he cross it? The detective grins because he knows the answer. And what about you? It was winter. The river was frozen. A waiter approaches Sadfist and puts his omelet with coffee on the table. The detective eats, then calmly gets up from the table and heads to the kitchen. There, he meets a masked robber. The detective arrests him. How did he know there was a criminal in the kitchen? Rob in kitchen was written on the coffee mug. The robber is detained by other police officers, and Sadfist goes back to his car. He has a new case. He arrives at an antique store. Some swindler has deceived the store owner and sold him a fake coin. The coin has a date on it, 175 BCE. It looks old. The analysis has shown that the coin is ancient. The store owner says he thought it was really made before the current era. How did he eventually understand the coin was a fake? People who lived before our era couldn't write BCE on their coins. Sadfist leaves the store. Oh no, his shoes are torn. The detective gets into his car and goes to a shoe store. He parks, gets out of his car, and he sees 3 stores. The best shoes in the city, the sign on the first building claims. The best shoes in the world is written on the second building. But the inscription on the third store is the best. Detective Sadfist smiles and goes there. What's written on the third store? The best shoes on the street. After doing some shopping, Sadfist drives down the street and sees a group of suspicious people standing next to a building under construction. The detective stops the car. People notice him and run away in the other direction. The detective runs after them. It seems they've managed to escape, but Sadfist doesn't think so. He calls for backup and tells the police he's caught a gang of hooligans. They're all hiding in a transformer box. How did the detective know that? After all, he lost sight of the hooligans at some point. The hooligans ran on uncured concrete and left footprints leading to the transformer box. Oh no! Now, Sadfist's new shoes are stained with wet concrete. The detective gets into the car and goes to the laundry. There he meets the owner, who finds out about another crime. The owner claims that someone has taken a huge amount of money from his safe. But the detective realizes that there was no thief. The owner stole the money himself to get compensation from the insurance company. Sadfist has noticed this laundry gets robbed too often, but the owner hasn't changed the locks or strengthened security yet. But how can the detective prove the money hasn't been stolen? There are banknotes in that washing machine over there. That's where the owner hid the money. Tired, the detective returns home. His apartment is a mess. Since she left him, the house has turned into a dump. A mouse squeaks somewhere in the room. Inspect the apartment and help Sadfist catch the rodent. See that box with a hole? It looks like the mouse has chewed through it. Sadfist catches the tiny animal, but does nothing to it. He decides it will be his pet. The detective's mood is as bad as it always is. But maybe checking your score will cheer him up. 0 to 3 points. Detective Sadfist has only gotten sadder because you haven't helped him much in his investigation. 4 to 7 points. Not bad for an ordinary private detective, but it's unsatisfactory for Sadfist, the best detective in the city. Next time, try to be more attentive. 8 to 10 points. Well, it's better, but still not good enough. It's like having eaten a burger and still feeling a little hungry. 11 to 14 points. Today, the city can sleep peacefully. You've helped the detective in almost all cases. He deserves his long-awaited rest. And you do too. Mrs. Collins went on a business trip and her daughter Ella stayed in the house alone. Of course, the girl wanted to invite some friends over. Her mother knew it was inevitable, so she permitted Ella to invite no more than 2 friends. Mrs. Collins also asked a neighbor to keep an eye on her daughter. Here's what the neighbor saw when she approached the house. Is Ella following her mother's instructions? There are 5 cars parked by the house. Assuming that one of them belongs to Ella, there are at least 4 more girls in the house, but possibly even more. In any case, Ella invited over way more people than she was allowed to. Jason received a letter from a girl wanting to ask him out. Unfortunately, the letter wasn't signed, so he didn't know who the girl was. He only knew that it must be someone from his class. Take a look around. Which girl sent him the note? The letter is written in purple ink. Look, that girl over there has a purple pen, so she must be the secret admirer. Detective Callum got a call from a local store selling branded shoes. A pair of their expensive high-heeled shoes appeared to have been stolen. Unfortunately, the cameras didn't work that day and the footage wasn't available. But there was a camera at the entrance taking photos of people walking in and walking out of the store. Who is the robber? It's this woman. Look, she's gotten taller on her way out, probably because she's wearing the shoes. A police officer was following a robber around the city. Suddenly, the robber entered the hospital and disappeared. When the police officer entered the building, there were 3 workers. One of them must be a robber who was pretending to be a patient. Can you identify this person? It definitely can't be this pregnant woman, and I doubt it's this old man. This man seems to be blind, but where is his stick then? I bet it's the robber who's wearing shades to pretend to be blind and draw away the police officer's suspicions. Take a look at these 3 people. One of them isn't a human, but who? It's this woman. Look, the hand behind her head is green. Avery was walking in a forest late at night. There was the full moon and she encountered 3 werewolves. Well, actually just 2, because one of them isn't a real werewolf. Which one? It's this one right here. Look, there's a zipper, so he's obviously wearing a costume. Okay, now take a look at this photo of people in a restaurant. One of them is a vampire hunter in disguise. If you were a vampire, who would you avoid at all costs? You'd have to avoid the place overall because it's the cook. Look, he's adding garlic to the dishes. Now let's check how attentive you are. Now I'll be showing you some photos and you have to find out what's wrong or odd about them. Here's the first one. What do you say? Look, the ghost is plugged into a socket. Here's another one, again with a ghost. Are you attentive enough to notice what's wrong with this one? This ghost casts a shadow. You're doing great. Here's the next one. Keep your eyes wide open. What do you see? This vampire is tanned. Those guys never see sunlight, so they're very pale. Okay, the next one is just as tricky. We're in a house of a vampire. Can you notice what's wrong here? Look at the picture in the background. The vampire is on it, but vampires can't be photographed. Paige wasn't doing well in school, so she was grounded for all the winter holidays and forced to study. Her father would work the night shifts, so quite often he wasn't at home for a long time, so Paige would often sneak out. She was very careful so it would go unnoticed. But one early morning, the father came back and realized that Paige had sneaked out at night for a party. How did he figure it out? Look, Paige's car is the only one in the neighborhood that's not snow-covered. It means that she's recently used it. Mrs. Jones grounded her teenagers for throwing a party in the house the previous weekend. They weren't allowed to go out for 2 weeks and were under strong supervision. On Saturday, Mrs. Jones left for an hour to go grocery shopping. When she returned, she figured out that someone had sneaked out for that hour. Evie said, "I was watching Netflix." Dale said, "I was texting with a friend." Kaya said, "I just finished taking a shower." Who sneaked out? Kaya. If she had really just taken a shower, the bathroom mirror would be misted. But look, it's all clear, so she got an additional week at home. The next Saturday was supposed to be the last Saturday when the teenagers were grounded, and Mrs. Jones went shopping again. When she returned, she noticed dirt on the carpet in the hallway, so she knew right away that one of the teenagers sneaked out again. Evie said, "I was just reading in my room." Dale said, "I was gaming." Kaya said, "I was watching TikTok right here on the couch." Who sneaked out this time? This time, it must have been Dale. He has wet hair, which could be weird, but it's not. It's raining outside. It means he was outside and not just sitting in front of the computer. The next Saturday, only Evie wasn't grounded anymore. In a parallel universe, it's only allowed to have fun and eat candy. No one ever works or studies. Mrs. Relham came back home after a long and fun night at a club. Her 3 daughters were supposed to have fun too. She asked them what they had been doing. Hannah said, "I went to a party with my friends in that new dress you got me." Elle said, "I organized a sleepover. We were binge-watching shows and eating." Ava said, "I was gaming all day with my friends online." Still, Mrs. Relham could tell that one of her daughters lied and actually spent all day studying. Who was it? It was Hannah. Look, her dress is perfectly clean and still has a price tag on it. It doesn't seem like she wore it. As you remember, Elle had a sleepover with her friends, so her room is a complete mess right now. Now, she's going to a beach with her friends. She needs her sunglasses, sunscreen, and her swimsuit. Can you help her find them in the room? Yes, here they all are. Great job. A day after the beach, Elle is heading to her classmate's place for a party. She needs her dress, her handbag, and her lipstick. Can you help her find them? The dress, the handbag, and the lipstick. Did you find them all? Hannah was getting ready to meet her best friend for a picnic and didn't find some of her stuff. She remembered that she had lent her shoes, her hairdryer, and her backpack to her sister, Ava. Ava's room was no less of a mess than Elle's. Can you help Hannah find her stuff there? Here they are. Did you find everything she needed? Ava is getting ready for her volleyball practice. She needs her volleyball, her sneakers, and her hoodie. Where are they? They're all here. Esme was having a walk in the forest, and guess what? She didn't get lost. Here was her way home, but she decided to go and visit a witch because she had a deal for her. "I have a riddle. If you don't solve it, I'm taking your cat." The witch agreed. "When does New Year's Day come before Christmas Day?" The witch kept the cat. What was her response? New Year's Day comes before Christmas Day, literally every year.
Ho, ho, ho. This holiday season, you're determined to catch Santa in the act. So you're pretending to be asleep. When the clock strikes midnight, you suddenly hear strange noises coming from the chimney. You rush to the living room where a shadowy figure who is oddly small is standing next to the tree. Then it takes a step towards you. It's not Santa, it's a gnome. He smiles and says, "Tell me the answer to this riddle, and a message from Santa I'll deliver. I'm a treat that can be made into many things. I can be a cake, a cookie, or an edible little cottage with icing. What am I?" It's gingerbread. The gnome hands you a letter and leaves the room, climbing back up through the chimney. You open it and start reading. Hello, dear. I'm happy to announce that you made it to my nice people list this year, which means I'm inviting you to my Winter Wonderland Ball that will take place at the North Pole. You'll find the date and time details below. Can't wait to see you and give you your special gift. Ho ho ho, Santa. P.S. Remember, I'm always one step ahead of you, but sometimes I'm right behind you. You look at the time and date details immediately, but the writing doesn't make any sense. Can you decipher it? Santa already gave you a hint on how to solve this. One step ahead of you means you need to replace all the letters in the date section with the letter that comes after them in the alphabet. So the answer is 25th of December. But how about the time of the ball? I'm sure you realize the same method doesn't work for this one, but Santa gave you a hint about it too. He said sometimes he's right behind you, which means to solve this one, you need to replace all the letters in the time section with the letters that come before them in the alphabet. And that gives you the word midnight. But how on earth are you going to be able to get to the North Pole by tomorrow night? At that moment, a little arrow pointing to the back of the paper appears below the letter. So you turn it around. Suddenly, a note appears. Don't worry, I've thought of everything. The answer to this riddle will be waiting for you tomorrow by your window. If you answer it correctly, that is. Now tell me, I'm one of those who pulls Santa's sleigh. My nose helps light the way. Who am I? It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, of course. The day of the ball arrives, and just like Santa said, Rudolph is waiting for you by your window. But to make sure you're really the person he's supposed to give a ride to, he asks you this riddle. At night, they come without being called. By day, they are lost without ever leaving. What are they? The correct answer is stars. You hop on Rudolph's back, and he follows the direction of the North Star to take you to the North Pole. Rudolph drops you to the Winter Wonderland Market. The ride made you feel hungry, so you start looking for some place where you can eat. At the far end, you notice 3 different food trucks. Take a look inside all of them. The first one serves various kinds of fried potatoes. The second one serves all things gingerbread. And the third one serves all types of vegetable dishes. Which one do you think is the best option? Take a closer look at the potato sack inside the first truck. They are actually expired. Did you notice the little snow mice inside the third truck who is stealing vegetables? Let's pass. So, it's better to head to the second truck. Jack Frost greets you and places 3 different gingerbread desserts in front of you. The first one is a gingerbread man cookie. The second one is a gingerbread house. And the third one is a slice of gingerbread cake. Which one should you pick? Did you notice that the gingerbread man cookie is blinking at you? He's alive! You can't eat him! And as far as the gingerbread house, do you see the shadows of teeny tiny elves from its windows? So, a family of elves must be living in it. You wouldn't want to wreck their house. Better choose the gingerbread cake. After you finish your cake, you feel it's time to have something to drink. You see a cafe with a sign that says, Best Mocktails in Town. So you head there. The owner of the place, Jack Skellington, welcomes you. After explaining to you that he moved to this town to escape from his scary neighbors, he presents you with 3 different drink options. The first one is called Brew of Screams. The second one is called Pumpkin King Latte. And the third one is called Haunting Hot Cocoa. Which one should you order? Do you see the menu on the wall? All the special ingredients of each of the drinks are listed here. It says that the special ingredient of the Pumpkin King Latte is a piece of Jack's bones. Ew. And the special ingredient of the Haunting Hot Cocoa is tiny marshmallow-shaped ghosts. Nope to that. But the special ingredient of the Brew of Screams is just mint. So that's the best option. Jack still has some learning to do to adapt to this place, huh? Right after you finish your drink, you hear an announcement calling everyone to gather in front of the stage at the town center. You head there. An elf walks toward the microphone on the stage and says whoever can guess who the real Santa is will win a trip to his house. Then 3 Santas appear on the stage. Can you tell which one is actually Santa? Take a closer look at the first Santa. He's wearing elf shoes. His feet are too tiny for how tall he is, and he's too thin. That can only mean inside the red coat, there are a bunch of elves standing on the shoulders of each other, pretending to be Santa. Gotcha, fellas. The third Santa, on the other hand, is wearing a skirt and has long hair hiding inside the hat. Then that must actually be Santa's wife, Mrs. Claus, acting as her husband. So, the real Santa is the third one. Santa congratulates you for winning and takes you to his house. But as soon as you enter there, you see 3 elves arguing over a broken toy. Santa interrupts them to figure out who broke it. The first elf says, "I was sleeping. I didn't break the toy." The second elf says, "I was drawing a picture for Santa. I had nothing to do with the toy." And the third elf says, "I wasn't even in the room. I was listening to Mrs. Claus read a story." Can you tell who broke the toy? The third elf is lying. Mrs. Claus was on the stage pretending to be Santa for the previous riddle, remember? So, he's the one who broke the toy. After giving you the house tour, Santa says he needs to go back to the town center, but you can stay there until the ball starts, and he leaves. After a while, Mrs. Claus rushes to you and says she needs your help because Santa had an accident and his sleigh is broken. You head to the side and see Santa and Grinch arguing. Santa says, "You rushed right in front of me and scared my deers. I lost control of all my reindeer and hit the tree." Grinch says, "I've seen your crash just in front of me. This is not my doing." Can you tell who is lying? The tracks of the Grinch's ride follow past the accident site. But since Santa's broken sleigh is blocking the road, he shouldn't be able to drive past there. So Grinch is the one lying. Ho ho ho! Happy holidays!